So right now in Canada, the current Prime Minister, the guy running this country, he was installed by the Liberal Party when the last Liberal leader resigned after setting everything aflame and basically said, I'm going to the bathroom, and just never came back. So this new guy, Mark Carney, a globalist banker, is responding to the current housing crisis here in Canada. And he's doing it by saying the government is getting back in the business of building affordable homes. Let me just pause here and say, I don't know why the government's involved in anything outside of protecting our borders and enforcing our laws. You say, well, the government builds roads and bridges. Well, not really. Everything is falling apart. Every new infrastructure project is significantly delayed and always over budget because the federal government uses non-compete contracts, which gives the contractor very little reason to finish the project on time and under budget. And about only 10 cents of every tax dollar goes towards infrastructure anyways. So what do we need the government getting in the business of exactly? It just seems, it might just be me, but it just seems like every problem in the free market is created by government intervention. The housing crisis, it exists because of government intervention. The Canadian government under Justin Trudeau created a huge imbalance between supply and demand. It brought in a ton of people and it grew the population at a rate that far outpaced housing construction. With housing construction already being a sector of the economy hamstrung by government intervention and regulation, with construction costs already really high due to inflation, also caused by the government printing money, taxing us to death, and then spending the money they take from us like drunken sailors on shit that really doesn't help ordinary Canadians. Like, they're not building beautiful roads and highways for us, is what I'm saying. They have these grandiose initiatives, often overseas, things that we really can't afford right now, and things that really don't help ordinary Canadians back at home. You know, people criticize China. China's middle class is growing. They've taken the money that they've made from us, offshoring all of our labor and industry, and they've reinvested it in China. Not the case here in Canada. Here in Canada, the government does not spend our tax dollars responsibly, effectively, and with respect. And they create more problems by meddling in the free market. Now Carney is saying they're going to fix the problem they created with more government intervention. Household debt is through the roof. No one can get ahead. No one can afford a house. So Carney is announcing the government is getting back in the business of affordable housing. Okay, when was the last time the government getting involved in any problem made it better? Get this, his plan, unrolled in the Globe and Mail, it involves knocking down single detached homes, removing density limits, and building government-run housing projects. Can we start ringing the alarm yet? People should be in the streets over this. It's not even a band-aid. It's not even like it doesn't fix any of the underlying problems. It makes our condition worse. It further decreases the standard of living. Even with dual income, people working multiple jobs, no one can afford a home, and the government's response is like, okay, what if we build you shitty, really tiny homes? What does that fix? What happens when no one can afford that? We all start living in pods? And then what happens when we can't afford that? You know, I often think Canada was dealt such an incredible hand. We have bountiful natural resources. We have natural sea and land borders, vast territory. Like, it would take a lot to screw it up. Almost to the point where it's like, it's not even just negligence to screw it up. It would take like active, strategic, like malice to screw it up. You know, I don't believe that's the case. My tinfoil hat is not that fixed in my head, but you gotta wonder. I think it happens over time. You know, the Trudeau government was in power for a decade, and being that we have everything that we have, and we started with such a high standard of living, you know, it takes some serious mismanagement for us to even notice a decline in our quality of living. But over the course of a decade, you do notice it. And when you're being run by people who live in La La Land, believe in like a utopian vision of how things ought to be, but are not technical and do not properly account for and estimate the downstream costs of their actions, they just do things and spend money, and they go buck wild trying to achieve their utopia, and they do it over the course of years. Well, then that's how you end up where we are now. But let me just implore Canadians, it's like the way we fix this and we get out of it is not by hiring the same people. You know, it's a new face on the same old machine. And it's the same between Liberal, Conservative, NDP. It's all the same. They all believe the same shit. They are all delusional, and they will keep spending our money, and they will keep wrecking things unless we hold them to account. And that starts by saying, get out of our lives, get out of our business. You know, we are a productive people if left to our own devices. Like, we will figure it out. We always do. I mean, we're going to have to figure it out. We're going to be the ones that are going to have to deal with the mess created by these people in government office. So every time they talk about their new initiative and their new idea for getting involved in the private sector and your personal lives, we just have to say, get out. Get out, go back to your little office in the parliament, in Ottawa. You can have our money. You're already taking more than half of our wealth. Just don't use it to make our conditions worse. You know, if you have some grandiose global agenda about climate change or something like that, it's like, what happened in China when the middle class grew? Well, they stopped polluting as much and they started taking climate change more seriously, and they started looking after the environment more because they can afford to do it, because it's a luxury belief, and you can only have luxury beliefs once you have a little bit of luxury. Like, the market will correct. It will sort itself out if you leave us alone. You brought in a bunch of people, demand, it outstrips supply in the housing market right now. Just leave it alone. We will build more houses. We don't want government-run housing projects. It doesn't need to be this way. Canada, like I say, we were dealt an incredible hand. We have a lot going for ourselves. Just let us realize this potential and get out of the way of the people, the citizens, us, me. You know, in 2020, all I wanted to do was get strong sobriety, and I did it. It was like one of the hardest things I did in my life. And now in 2025, I found something even harder that I want. Like, I want to own my own home. I don't want to rent for the rest of my life. I work hard. I work every hour of the day. Just let me work and leave me alone. And I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of Canadians when I say this.